is guilty. The 37-year-old was remanded in custody until next month when he will be sentenced.
The former Irish President Mary MacAleese has described the Catholic Church as an empire of misogyny. She was speaking before today's conference in Rome on women's role within the Church. It was banned from the Vatican. She said the Church was the last great bastion of misogyny. She added that a church hierarchy which is anti-abortion and homophobic is not the Church of the future. We're going to discuss this first with Assistant Professor in Gender Studies at UCD, Dr. Mary MacAleese. I asked her if she thought Mary MacAleese was right.
I think she is, and I think that's a very interesting phrase that I think will become quite a common phrase. Already I can see it trending on social media, just that idea of an empire of misogyny, and it's a very good way of putting it. The Catholic Church, as in actually most of the religions of the books, I suppose, the major religions have a misogynistic core, I would say, to their attitudes to women and women's place within faith, but particularly the Catholic Church, as it's the one we're talking about. It's a male bastion. It has always been a male bastion with very patronising attitudes to women, control of women's bodies, control of women's voices. And even though there have been reforms put in place, and of course in this era of equality and feminism, there have been some responses to that, but I would still say, yes, it is a misogyny, an empire of misogyny.
Mary MacAleese says there are so few leadership roles for women. Women don't have strong role models to look up to. Is that what it's about? Women getting into positions which reinforce the structure of hierarchy, where you would have women priests, bishops, cardinals, which many, including, I understand, the Pope, see as the fundamental problem with the Church, this notion of hierarchy. So would you just put women into the same hierarchical positions?
Well, I think if you put women into those roles, if women could become priests, I think it would fundamentally alter the hierarchy, or at least I would hope it would fundamentally alter the hierarchy, because, of course, women would be coming with a different life experience, with a different idea of what the Church should offer to the congregation, to the faithful, to different ideas of what is important, rather than just the cardinals, the all-male cardinals and archbishops meeting in conclave and deciding what is the important issues for the Church. I think women would bring a different focus.
There are some in the hierarchy who get it. Someone like the Archbishop of Dublin, Dermot Martin, who says the low standing of women in the Church is the most significant reason for the feelings of alienation there are towards the Church in Ireland today. More even than child sexual abuse, he argues. And you wonder if that's the case. Is it too late for the changes that should already have been made?
Well, yes, and I would agree with Dermot Martin. I mean, alienating women particularly, you're alienating the family, because women usually were traditionally the ones who would make sure that children are brought up within the faith, and that was supposed to be the role of the respectable Irish Catholic mother. But because of that alienation from the Church by Irish women, say, if we take just this country, that means that faith practice isn't continuing, and women are leaving the Church and maybe finding spirituality elsewhere, or finding different ways of being in the world in terms of their faith beliefs and spirituality. But the Catholic Church isn't attractive anymore. It isn't providing a space in which women feel welcome, in which there is this idea of servility, of obedience, without any commitment to hearing the female voice within that. And I would very much agree, and I'm so grateful for women like Mary MacAleese who are speaking out about this from within the tent in some ways, and saying, yes, the Church has to change. If it doesn't change, it has no future.
Dr. Mary MacAleese. Carolyn Farrow is a Catholic broadcaster. Good evening.
Good evening.
Do you feel welcome as a woman in the Catholic Church?
Absolutely, and I think it also needs to be remembered, this Voices of Faith conference, it talks about women's diverse voices, or the voices of diverse women, yet there was not a single woman who is completely happy with the Catholic status quo, with orthodoxy, who was represented. There were argue that we are being silenced. So I would state that the Voices of Faith conference doesn't speak for all Catholic women by any sort of stretch of the imagination. But I would say as a Catholic woman, then, yeah, I feel completely welcome. And it's interesting because, yes, although women can't be priests, when I think of women who, Catholic lay women who hold extremely influential positions. So in my particular diocese, the finance director, who is, the most powerful lay person in the diocese below the bishop, that is a woman. I can think of lots of communications officers who are women. I can think of lots of really, really powerful and influential Catholic lay women, including, the director of the Vatican Museums, who's a woman. So I think there's too much of a focus here, really, on the idea of the priesthood. That the only way that there's going to be any sort of equality, for want of a better word, is by women becoming priests.
But Carolyn, if you have someone as high in the church's ruling structure as the Archbishop of Dublin saying the low standing of women in the church, his words, is the most significant reason for feeling of alienation towards the church in Ireland today, it's hard not to feel, it's hard for women, when they hear him saying that, not to feel that they have been marginalised, not to feel that they're being excluded, and that their feelings are justified.
Well, that's the opinion of I'm not going to say anything derogatory against the Archbishop of Dublin, but that is his personal opinion. He's saying that is how he thinks women in Ireland feel. And of course, in Ireland, you've had all these, or certainly in the Republic, you've had all these hot-button issues about same-sex marriage and abortion. Now, the Church's stance on abortion, which is something that Mary MacAleese mentioned, is not one about wanting to repress women. It's about recognising the humanity of the unborn child and trying to get, the balance correct, that, it's not feminism, it's not empowering for women to say, actually, the only way for you to have any autonomy is to have the option to terminate the life of your unborn child. So it's not, the Church is not taking the position that she takes on abortion because she wants to oppress or repress women.
But there is silencing going on, you see. That's what is being objected to, Carolyn. The Church is attempting to silence. There are people who have been excluded from that conference, among them Mary MacAleese. Well, just let me make the point. Sure. They're attempting to silence and marginalise women who are insiders. How much more likely, people ask, are they likely to silence and marginalise those on the outside?
I don't believe that they are being silenced, okay? So a good analogy would be take a member of the Labour Party who declared themselves to be a member of the Labour Party and yet supported, free market capitalism and hereditary peerages, complaining that they weren't then given a platform to speak at the Labour conference. Now, these women are not being silenced. They've still been able to have their event. Their event has still taken place.
All right.
At a Catholic institution. But what the Vatican has said is, we're not going to sponsor this, because obviously if the Vatican was seen to be sponsoring it or supporting it, then that would cause, a lot of confusion for the faithful. And as I said, there are plenty of Orthodox women out there, and I'm one of them. I went for a job interview recently in the Catholic Church, and the first thing that was said to me was, we're really sorry. They realised that on the interview panel they didn't have a very good gender balance. They apologised. I didn't get the job, and I wouldn't have wanted to get the job because I was a woman. But they actually said, we like you enough that we're going to create a new role especially for you because we think you have some talents to offer.
All right, Carolyn.
That's not the role of that's not misogyny in action. That's meritocracy.
Thank you very much. Carolyn Farrow, Catholic broadcaster. 25 past 6.